What's going on, everybody? RJ Ochoa here from SB Nation's bloggingtheboys.com. Hope all is well wherever you are. We hope you're happy, safe, healthy, and I trust that, like me, you are still trying to figure out exactly what Jerry Jones meant by saying the Dallas Cowboys will be all in on the 2024 season. Obviously, times are tough right now for us Cowboys fans. What with how the 2023 season ended, it was a magical and wonderful ride all the way throughout the regular season, and then with complete, total, utter playoff failure, a story that we know full well by this point in our lives. And so what do we do but try to figure out a path forward? That is kind of the overall goal around here. But today we're going to look back a little bit and look forward at the same time with two incredible guests. I teased this earlier in the week. From Fox, we have Kevin Burkhardt and Greg Olsen, who were on the call for a number of Dallas Cowboys games throughout the 2023 regular season, including obviously their playoff loss to the Green Bay Packers. Kevin and Greg were kind enough to take some time to join me on Wednesday to discuss their recent partnership with DiGiorno. Of course, all the Cowboys games they called, their thoughts on obviously everything they saw, what happened in the playoffs, etc., etc. It was a wonderful conversation that I'm sure you are going to enjoy. If you have not yet, please consider subscribing right down below here to the Blog and the Boys YouTube channel. This conversation can also be heard on the Blog and the Boys podcast network. If you haven't, please subscribe over there as well on your preferred podcast provider. But I'm not going to hold you back any longer. Without further ado, here they are from Fox. It is Kevin Burkhardt and Greg Olsen. Very pleased now to be joined by two of the most internationally famous, well-known all around the earth and corresponding planets. You know them as Dallas Cowboys fans very, very, very well. From Fox and here today on behalf of DiGiorno is the one and only Kevin Burkhardt and Greg Olsen. Kevin, I suppose I throw to you first. How are you doing today?
Great. RJ, we were talking before, and Greg and I joked at one point, because obviously we did a lot of Cowboys games, which we loved doing. So we said fans are either going to be like, "Oh, cool, we get to see those guys again," or "Holy cow, I never want to see those guys ever again." So I don't know which way that went, but I know speaking for Greg, we loved doing all those Cowboys games. So it's great to see you and be with you today.
Greg, do you know how many Cowboys games you did off the top of your head?
I do. Trust me. We did 9.
That's right. At one point, you had done thrice as many as any other team, although Dallas fell apart, obviously, in the playoffs. Thanks for y'all being there and, kind of just telling us all about it the whole time it happened. But San Francisco, outlasting everybody, gave y'all some more opportunities to do them. And you really did lean into that, Greg. I was telling Kevin right before you got here that I think it was before the Carolina game when you said on the call, like, we're going to be doing Dallas again next week. And I thought, man, they're going to go do the Panthers game. Like, the Panthers have the worst record in the NFL. That's a 1:00 game. Like, Kevin and Greg are way too good for this game. Like, what are they sending them to Carolina for? Although your history obviously makes some sense. What was it like kind of experiencing that phenomenon for you, I guess, as the season unfolded?
It was fun. I feel like what was cool, obviously it came to a tough end there in the playoffs for him. But what Kevin and I think enjoyed, and we talked a lot about during the course of the season alongside Dallas, was we were there early on in the season when they were still trying to figure out this new look offense, right? Figure out Dak, figure out Mike McCarthy calling plays, moving on from Kellen Moore, and what a story that was coming into the season. So we were there early on when the story was they couldn't finish drives in the red zone. They couldn't generate explosive plays. But hey, Dak's not turning the ball over, so everything's great. And then they went into the bye after the San Francisco game. We had them coming out, and they were a rocket ship. And we were like, this now is the vision, right? It's the explosive plays, red zone efficiencies picking up, and Dak is still not turning the ball over, and he's probably the MVP of the league, down the stretch of the season. So it was kind of cool to see the evolution, and then we saw a tough back-to-back stretch, with Buffalo and a tough one on Christmas Eve against Miami. But then they bounced back. We saw them in Week 18. So we were kind of there for all the ups and the downs and the evolution of the season. And when you call a team 9 times, you feel like you know them. You feel like you know the third string guard. You feel like you know what. It's a unique insight into arguably the most popular team in the NFL, and we enjoyed it all.
Kevin, I'm curious from a play-by-play standpoint because the Cowboys do generate, as y'all well know, so much attention and viewership, and every time they get a broadcast crew that isn't y'all, we hear the same stories, right? Brandon Aubrey went to Notre Dame. He was drafted in the MLS and all sorts of stuff. So do you approach things as you do have to kind of tell certain stories over and over and over again because you might have so many new transplant audience members? Or is there some stuff that you're willing to kind of bake in and understand that the viewer might understand by December of the regular season?
I think it's a really good question. And like, I can speak to both sides of it, right? When you're coming in, and let's say a crew's coming in and doing the team for the first time, you feel like you want to just go over the main stories because you're a new group. And be honest, even the most diehard fans don't necessarily see or hear every single minute, right? So that's how it is from one side of it. For us, when we're basically embedded with the team and we know everybody so well and we've gotten so much info on the team, we kind of do the opposite where we're like, okay, there's certain things that obviously that are key points you talk about every single week, right? We're going to talk about Dak and his connection to CeeDee Lamb. We're going to talk about, so some of those things. But we, on a weekly basis, especially when we had them 2-3 weeks in a row, we would always talk as a group, Greg and I and Aaron and Tom and our crew, like, okay, like what are we missing? Or what's a new angle? What are the fans caring about? Or what's something that we haven't done enough of? Just so honestly, fans are interested. And especially, again, you're thinking that there are a segment of the fans that certainly aren't going to hear or listen to every single word or every single game. But the diehards, there are some that are. So, yeah, we were cognizant of that and tried to make, there's some things that are going to be topics every week. But I think we definitely tried to dive into different things. And that was kind of the cool part is it allowed us to. We got to focus on different players or different nuances. And then obviously each week there's also the game gives you different stories right in front of your face. So it's paying attention what's in front of you too, RJ.
Greg, you've gotten a lot of kudos on the heels of the NFC Championship game. Obviously, there were some divisive moments with Dan Campbell and things like that. And I think it's really clear how much homework you do at understanding trends in the NFL and what people are talking about and marrying all those ideas together. And you seem to have really great instincts, as evidenced by the fact that you sort of called Kevin cursing Brandon Aubrey in the final game of the regular season that y'all had. So, I mean, for context, to kind of your point, Kevin, to explain, Brandon Aubrey had not missed a kick ever in his NFL career, and you danced around it. And Greg, you were like, dude, what are you doing? This is a horrible idea, only to have it be blocked. What is it like, I guess, in that moment, Greg, where then you obviously have to describe what is happening and react to the block, but also live in the hilarity of the sequence that you just kind of called yourself?
Yeah, I'm not sure if Kevin's really going to ever move on from that. It's been something that has really been haunting him really since that day. And, I'm not sure how he's really going to move on and be able to continue in this field. But
you got to say the story, like starting the night before, though. This is a whole story behind it.
So there's a little backstory to this. So the night before, I give my little dissertation about different storylines and what I think, and Kevin gets a feel for what I'm thinking because he is the master at driving the broadcast, both what's happening on the field, but then when opportunities present, steering it to a way where he knows I'm anxious to talk about CeeDee, whatever the storyline we have set up. And he's the master at getting me to a position where not only do I have the opening to discuss it, but it's relevant to what's happening in the game, right? So that's Kevin's secret sauce to why he is who he is, and everybody who works with him obviously gets better as a result. But in this particular case, I get done with my little 20-minute dissertation on the game, and then Kevin's like, hey, something else, we got to be ready for Brandon Aubrey. The season he's had is potentially the greatest field goal kicking season of all time.
Kevin.
And I just made like a throwaway joke, like, I'm not talking about it tomorrow. I am not. Dallas Cowboy fans have already heard us enough. I made it as like in jest, joke, whatever. So it was like a throwaway laugh around the table, and we moved on to something else. But in all fairness, it maybe still, 2 kicks he missed. But if he finished with no misses, with his, with 9 from 50 plus, it was the best field goal kicking season, and it needed to be ever.
Yeah, not just for a rookie, to y'all's point, like literally ever, right?
Anyone. He was passing like Morton Anderson, or who was he passing? Was it Morton Anderson? Whatever it was.
It was Gary Anderson and Mike Vanderbeek. Yeah.
There you go. So 2 historically good. So the point of the story is we made like a throwaway joke that night, but we're all like, yeah, we got to discuss this. This kid comes on for his first kick. Like, it's a real story. So just playing off the night before when Kevin said it, I said, hey, man, I don't know what I said. I was something along the lines of, hey, man, that's on you, but we shouldn't be talking about this. And then sure as shit, it's like thump, thump. And I was like, oh, my God, they blocked it. And like I grabbed his arm, and Kevin's doing the call because Washington returned on the sideline. And I'm like shaking him. And I want to say we went to a break, and we just looked at each other, and we were like, oh my God.
I know.
It actually played out exactly what we were hoping was. We made the joke about jinxing him, and he split it down the middle, and everyone moved on. Never in a million years did we actually think it wasn't going to be good.
We felt bad for the kid, obviously, but then to finish the story later in the game, obviously he missed another one, and then it was like, okay, you want to see him make one here, so he comes out. They throw the ball at the end with Cooper Rush just to give him a chance,
Right.
And he comes out to kick a 50-yarder, and I go, all right, try whatever I say, try to get him back on track. He's 9 for 9 from 50 plus this year. Olsen grabs my bicep and nearly rips it off my shoulder because he couldn't believe that I said that. And I got to be honest, once the kick went through, I was like, oh, all right. Thank God that went in.
You have a lot of things that are going through your minds. I don't know if you thought of what happened. I know y'all didn't have the Cowboys wild card game last year when they beat the Buccaneers, but the Brett Maher meltdown was like rolling through everybody's minds. Like, oh my gosh, because he had a really great season up until then. And then I know y'all did have the San Francisco loss, and there was the Trent Williams, beef or whatever at the beginning. Like everybody was just kind of pre-living that in their minds all over again. So yeah, way to go. I don't know who to blame because I guess I didn't know that you had a hand in that too, Greg. But Kevin, you seemed like the person who authored the phenomenon, and then you tweeted about it and you apologized to Cowboys fans. And I thought that was an appropriate, kind of thing to ask because of why y'all are here. Y'all are here on behalf of DiGiorno's. And Kevin, you just you want kickers to miss. This is for a good cause for all of us.
This is a perfect segue, RJ. It's just that's a professional by you. Yeah. We want DOINKS. We want DiGiorno DOINKS, right? So fans fired up for the big game, obviously. And here's something to root for, okay? Everyone loves free pizza. Well, the good news is if you get any kind of DOINK in the game, you could register starting tomorrow, DiGiornoDoinks.com. You win free pizza. So, and Greg, listen, on my behalf, before you say I'm going to jinx every kicker, you get DOINK and then go in, and you still can get a free pizza out of the deal. Okay, so everyone can be happy. Kickers can be happy. It's not my fault, but maybe you get a pizza out of the deal.
Bank shots count. Have y'all ever had a DiGiorno's or anything in the booth, Greg? I imagine y'all have had many a meal at different times.
No, we only eat turduckens in the booth.
Y'all didn't have
turkey legs.
Yeah, y'all didn't have the Cowboys game on Thanksgiving, and I'm a little bit sore about the fact that you had the Packers because that was the moment Jordan Love really heated up, and we don't have to talk about everything else, but
we gave him all the motivation he needed.
On the subject, I guess, of the Cowboys' failures, again, as two people who know the team really well, Kevin, you and I were talking right before Greg got here about how the playoff loss was so jarring, and I mean, I think I speak for Cowboys fans in saying they're besides themselves. We have no idea kind of how to feel. Greg, I mean, what is your assessment? I mean, in terms of what they can do, what they should do, because you can make an argument for all sorts of different things at this moment in time, because especially after a playoff loss like that, you're just shook and you really have to kind of pick yourself back up and dust yourself off.
Yeah, I don't think anyone within the organization and certainly the fan base, I know there was some bad memories of the divisional round and
sure.
I'm sorry, of the wild card round and getting past the divisional. And I know that was always kind of in the background. That was always kind of a story. Can Dallas get back to a championship game for the first time in 28 years, whatever it was? And I get that, but I don't think anybody anticipated. I don't think them losing was a shock. It wasn't us. I wouldn't have picked them to lose, but I didn't go into that game saying, oh my God, I don't think Green Bay can stay close. We thought going in, Green Bay's offense was going to be a handful, and they had enough pieces on defense to cause at least a little trouble to keep the scoring to at least to a degree. And again, no one thought it was going to be 27-0 with 2 seconds left in the first half. But so going in, we thought it could be a close game that Green Bay could compete. I don't think anybody saw it going the way it did. And when you win 12 games 3 years in a row, and you're number one scoring offense, and you're a top 5 defense, and your special team, when you have the season Dallas did, and then you compound the way the end of the year went, that aligned for them to kind of just fall into a home playoff game as the 2 seed, it seemed like everything was lining up. All right, this is the year. It's the Dallas versus San Francisco NFC Championship rematch. Here we go. And it came crashing down. So I get it, right? I understand why there was that emotional reaction of, we've got to get a new coach. We've got to get a new quarterback. We've got to blow it all up. This is never going to work. And I think that's a natural reaction when there's disappointment and a thing comes to a sudden end. But I do think they got it right. I do think when you've had the level of success they've had, 36 wins in 3 years is nothing to shake a stick at in the NFL. That is really, really good consistency. The next thing for them is they got to get over the hump, right? And that's adding some pieces on the second level on defense. That's continuing to fine tune offensively in the postseason. How can they have a little bit more of a run game? How can they have a little bit more balance? Because playoff football is a little different. So I think that's the constant evolution of just improving. But I mean, you look around some of the best coaches, some of the best teams in the league, and they haven't sniffed an NFC championship or AFC championship game in a long time either. People don't realize it is so hard to get there. And that's why the Mahomes of the world and 49ers have really dominated their respective conferences in that regard. Everybody else is kind of fighting for scraps right now.
Last one for y'all. Kevin is the vocal author of so many great moments in the regular season for the Cowboys this year. Which is the one that comes to mind? You got to close your eyes and pick the moment from the 2023 Dallas Cowboys season that y'all were a part of.
Wow.
There's a lot. I mean, so it might take you a while. I mean, 9 games. We experienced y'all for 36 quarters.
I know. I know. Gosh, we did so many. And it's not even this year. I mean, even just going back the last 2 years, we've had so many awesome moments. And I agree with Greg. Like, I agree with everything that Greg said, and certainly about this team. And just because it felt like they certainly had a chance, but I think they're on to something here. The best moment this year, gosh, I don't know if there's a singular moment for me. I'll say this. I really enjoyed the Dak to CD connections throughout the year. Dak had his best year. And that's the thing about, everyone, Mike McCarthy, whatever. Well, Mike McCarthy and Dak Prescott had their best years together, right? And so I think just Dak jumping to a new level with his play, to me, that's what I enjoyed. I know the last one was a sour taste in the mouth with the playoff loss. It always is if you go out in the playoffs. But I just think he was so superb this year, and so many things that he did in his just competitive level that I really enjoy watching him play. I know that's not a specific play. If you're going for one specific play, the one that I always go back to is the one from last year, the one on the Christmas Eve game.
Third and 30.
When he hit T.Y. Hilton up top for like 60 yards. That's like one of my favorite plays that I've called for the Cowboys in the last couple of years.
That's a good one. And you also smushed the Eagles in the process. So we'll totally take that. DiGiorno, DOINKS.com. I don't think y'all get to hear this a lot. So as somebody who speaks for a fan base that heard y'all, thank you very much. I mean, you help make memories that people remember forever with whoever they're watching games with and things like that. And while the Cowboys haven't won a Super Bowl, to your point, Greg, and your point too, Kevin, they've been 2 really successful years over these last couple of seasons. So thank y'all for being a part of our Sunday afternoons every week.
Appreciate you, man. Thanks so much.
Hey, man, appreciate it. Enjoyed it.